Hello, this is Jess from Phoenix Coaching, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about the archetypes. So, the archetypes were brought into the public consciousness by the psychologist Carl Jung, and they are frameworks of thought that are identical to all human beings because they originate from the collective human unconscious. So the collective human unconscious would be together as a global community of humanity. We all have embedded programs within the psyche that mean the same to everyone. So to give some examples of the archetypes, you could be talking about the warrior archetype, the mother, the father, the king, the queen, the mystic, hermit, fool, and so on. So Carl Jung didn't come up with the archetypes; he just brought them into the mainstream and did a hell of a lot of work and study on them. But in truth, the archetypes have been around since human consciousness began. So the archetypes are like an idea. So the archetype is the thumb, but the individual expression of the archetype is like the thumbprint. So no thumbprint is the same. So as an example of the warrior, a tribe in the Amazon is going to have a certain idea of what the warrior is. Then the like Britain will have a different idea of the warrior. It might be like a soldier. In feudal Japan, the idea of the warrior may have been a samurai. So different expressions of the warrior, but ultimately like the same idea of the qualities that the warrior encompasses. So with each archetype there's also the light and the shadow aspect. So since we're on the warrior, if we look at the light aspect, the warrior will be in defense of the innocent and upholding good, truth and justice. Whereas the shadow side, the warrior may go around killing people, slaying innocents, and if they are a warrior for a cause that is unjust, for instance. Now, the archetypes form who we are. So we all have an individual set of archetypes that make us who we are, as well as the way that we express those archetypes. So they're different for everyone. So just to go back to the warrior, it could be expressed through someone who does a lot of martial arts within their life, or also it could be expressed in terms of someone who is, say, a political activist. So this is, okay, it doesn't need to be like having a sword to be a warrior, for instance, because their warriorship could be through upholding a cause that they believe in. So, so we all have 12 main archetypes that form who we are. So what you can do is, within this blog post, you can have a look at the bottom. There's a full comprehensive list of archetypes by a woman called Caroline Myss, who's done a hell of a lot of work on an interpretation of archetypes and very much bringing them into something usable that people can look into as a means to discover more about themselves, as well as where they need to heal, as well as where they can take their life direction. Because when you are living life to give yourself more or fulfilling your archetypes, you set yourself up for having a fulfilled life. So figuring out your archetypes is kind of like a roadmap. So we all have 12 main archetypes. So the first 4 are your core archetypes, which this is like your baseline operating system, forming how you act, how you interpret situations, how you think, and the kind of situations and careers that you gravitated to. Then we have the survival archetypes, which form 4 archetypes: the child, the prostitute, the victim, and the saboteur. So these are the same for everyone. Now, they may sound negative, but in truth, no archetype is positive or negative. Now, an example of the victim archetype, for instance, the positive function of the victim archetype is to gain support when we need it. So, say for example, if someone was mugged, then they would come into the usage of the victim archetype to gain support. But often people fall into the shadow side of things and try and gain support and sympathy when, like in illegitimate situations. So we've all heard of people who play the victim. The light side of that particular archetype as well is that it gives you the awareness of how the victim part of our psyche operates, so that we have an awareness of when we may be coming into it, so that we can pick a different way of thinking and relating, as well as being able to support others who are in this mindset. So the survival archetypes are archetypes that we fall upon when times aren't going very well, basically. Then you've got the working archetypes. So these are what we're looking to achieve within our life, or what we are growing into. So say, for example, if you've got a teacher archetype as something that you're growing into, then all of your other archetypes then support your expression of being able to move into the role of teacher. So within that, when you are able to create your life in such a way so that you fulfill this teacher archetype by teaching others, then you set yourself up for having a fulfilled, nice time in life whereby you're inspired to get up every day and fulfill what is your natural purpose. So it's quite, you can get quite deep, because it's very much like looking in on yourself and discovering who and what you are, as well as where the imbalances may lie within the archetypes. So we'll talk about that more in a sec. So first off, the first way to start working with your archetypes is to discover which ones resonate with you. So you can use the list at the bottom of the blog post to start going through, and it's very much a feeling-based activity. So you want to try not to be in the mind so much and thinking, oh, I'm this one, or I think I'm that one because of this, and this. It's more of a feeling-based archetype. So you may find that some jump out to you as if you know them very well, and some it may take a little bit of time to discover through learning about them. It's very interesting because you'll see these archetypes everywhere. So in films and within other people, when you have an awareness of what you're looking for. So once you know your archetypes, you can start looking at what the light and shadow expressions of those archetypes are for you. And then this gives you a map of where you may need to do work on yourself. So say, for example, if someone has a lover archetype, the lover is all about love of things, love of the self, love of others. Now, the light side is when you are fully in the expression of love for everything all around you. But the shadow side of the lover archetype can potentially manifest in when the love turns into the obsession. And then there's the expression, if you hold a butterfly too tightly, then it will be crushed. If you hold it too loose, then it will fly away. So an imbalance within the lover archetype can be one of two ways: loving too much so that the butterfly is crushed and it's this like obsessional state, or not loving to the fullest so that you let the things go in your life. So this is just an example that every single archetype has its different positives and negatives, light and shadow aspects to them, which will be different for every person. So once you have your 8 archetypes, because we all have 12, but 4 are taken up in the survival archetypes, you can then start looking at the light and shadow. Then there are further exercises to do after that to forward the process of self-discovery. But often just by working out your 8 and looking at the light and shadow aspects, you will learn so much about how you operate and where some of the stumbling blocks for you are, because ultimately these represent areas of our psyche that are active all of the time. So you'll find that the different archetypes work to fuel and support each other. but you'll also find that some of them do the same, but in more of a negative way. So ultimately, when you can find out your archetypes and do the work so that you are have the awareness of where you are likely to fall into the shadow, you can come more into the light. And when you're more into the light, you can normalize and regulate these areas of your psyche in order to make sure that all of your archetypes are working for you at all times. So this is a really deep exercise. Often it's good to have some support when you're going through these in terms of coaching. So I offer coaching within the archetypes if you do feel that you want or need some support with it. So enjoy this exercise. It can be really deep. I've found it like really transformational working through mine over the last few years. And yeah, you can learn a hell of a lot about yourself. So enjoy and have a lovely day.